mentioned, I'm Jeff Solomon, Support Depot, and what we do is we help community associations with anything that can be done remotely, whether it's hosting Zooms like this or creating and managing and maintaining websites, as well as consultation for managers and board members, amongst other things, as well as for service providers in the industry. So Mark, my elevator speech is done. I'm going to turn it over to Mark Buckhalter from AccountSalt, who is our moderator for today. Mark, it's all you. And then when you're ready to go, we have a short poll asking our attendees if they're part of a condo, co-op, HOA, so on and so forth. So when you're ready for that, let me know, please.
Terrific, Jeff. Thanks so much. Good morning, everyone. First, I want to just thank everybody for joining us. We try to go ahead and put on these seminars at least once a month, if not more. We try to make it entertaining as well as educational.
Start dancing.
Again, my name is Mark Buckhalter. I'm one of the members of CARG, Community Association Resource Group. We have like a consortium of about 12 people of all different disciplines. Myself, I do monthly accounting for condominiums and HOAs. We have Leah, who you can see right now on the screen. She's the extraordinaire pool person who can probably answer all your questions. And we have Charles Infantino. He was really one of the founders of CARG. He does landscaping, pest control, tree trimming. We have Craig on board. He just dropped off, but Craig does janitorial and light maintenance. And all of us basically handle everything that's related to condos. And I see that Katherine is just signing on.
Katherine just joined us, yes.
Oh, great. Okay. And Katherine is a public adjuster, one of the best out there. And that's, we'll get into really with public adjusting. I'll make a few comments later on, but I just want to just tell you about some of the other people in the CAR group. We have Marcy from Cable Consulting, so that if any of the associations need cable advice or negotiating terms, she's been around probably for 25, 30 years doing this.
Yeah, she started when she was 5 years old.
We have Adam, who will be joining us. He had some technical difficulties signing in. He's with ServPro. Brandon Levy is with Legacy Insurance. We have paving and seal coating. And we have also a roofing service with Paul Bain Roofing. And obviously, last but not least, is Jeff with websites and marketing and operation support, who I'm sure that you're familiar with from other seminars. Before we get into it, we do ask that if anybody has any questions, as Jeff mentioned, you can write it in. We will get to everybody. We'll stay on as long as needed. And basically, CARG, like I said, is just a consortium of various disciplines. We vet everybody before they come on. So we're very confident referring these people to our clients, because we know that they're going to do the right job and just be a nice, good vendor to deal with. I'm just looking at some of the notes over here. We will be having some other seminars coming up. We invite a lot of times auditors and attorneys. And a matter of fact, if there's anybody participating, any of the audience, if you would like a special topic, we're more than willing to go ahead and make that up so that we can go ahead and share that with the community and yourself. So for argument's sake, if you wanted to go ahead and talk about janitorial services as it relates to condominiums, we can do a program on that. If you wanted to do public adjusting, even though we have it here as part of the hurricane preparation, we can go ahead and tailor a seminar for you or your organization, especially if there's property managers out there. We welcome to go ahead and to participate with you and put on educational program. So with all of that said, we're gonna start off basically with the hurricane preparation. I think Charles had a little issue over there.
Actually, Mark, we do have a hand up from the audience already.
great.
So if we have a hurricane question from Sandra, I'm enabling your microphone. Please unmute yourself and you can ask your question amongst our panel that's present now. We have Leah from pools. We have Katherine here with claims, Charles with landscaping. And if you have an accounting question or a technology question, you have myself and Mark. Sandra, please unmute yourself. We see your hand is up and you can go ahead and ask your question.
Oh, no, that was by accident, but I'm new to Florida, so anything that you say about this topic is of great interest to me.
Where are you from, Sandra?
New Jersey and New York.
Welcome. Hopefully you're a Mets fan. Let's go.
Thank you.
All right. If anything comes up, you can go ahead and type in or raise your hand and we'll call upon you again. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, I surely will. Thank you.
Welcome to Florida.
Yeah,
Thank you.
matter of fact, really for the participants, this is a little more unique because Jeff set this up as really almost like a little bit of a radio show, a format, so that you get to actually speak and instead of just typing, you can go ahead and verbally go ahead and ask a question and we can have some dialogue back and forth.
So Mark, guess what? Our stalling worked. Adam is back. So you can, if we can go ahead and start the program.
Hi, everyone. You hear me?
Yes,
yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay. This is Adam from ServPro. So why don't we go ahead and, Adam, if I can, I'm going to start with you. When hurricanes start, okay, obviously there's water. When there's water, okay, a lot of times there's seepage and which creates mold, and that's really where ServPro comes in. Maybe if you can just, give a little background or really more preparation, to mitigate damages during hurricanes.
Yeah, well, that's, when it comes to hurricane damage and storm damage, there's so many different aspects that you have to worry about, whether it be residential or commercial. Now, the commercial aspect of it, you have to deal with rainwaters from flooding, whether it's a named storm, a hurricane, tropical storm, whatever it might be. So you have FEMA, and when you have floodwaters, FEMA comes into play. Along with the floodwaters, it comes Category 3 black water, any sort of floodwater that comes in from, outside into a unit or a structure. That's when FEMA comes into play. Anything, flooring, drywall, anything that's touched by this black water should be removed. So there's that aspect of it. There's also wind-driven rain coming in, roof damages, window damages. I mean, the damage could be extensive. It all depends on what kind of storm is it. Is it moving fast? Is it, sitting slow over a certain region? We'll get into that a lot more. I mean, it's a loaded question, Mark, but I have a lot of info on that today.
Right. All right, terrific. Actually, we do have one quick question while I have you on, is how long does it take normally once something gets wet interior wise to start turning into mold?
So if it's water damage from a window, if it's water damage from a roof, from a storm related event, and if it's relatively clean, meaning not coming from outside or from a waistline pipe, I would say 72 hours is normally your safe period. 3 days when you have water damage for it to start to turn into mold growth. Based on certain criteria and conditions, if there's a puddle, literally a puddle in your house for 3 days, it's going to turn into mold a lot faster. If there's no power, no AC, all of that will add up to higher water vapor molecules in the air, which leads to mold growth at a faster rate. So yeah, I would say 3-4 days, and then you have to start being really careful.
So let me ask you this, we all, I guess every building has some seepage. once in a while. So when is it a situation that we would call you? I mean, do we wait to see if the black mold is there? Do we do it when just we see some drywall that's a little mushy, damp? You know,
Good question. If you see water staining, um, that's an indication. And if it's new water staining, that, something has happened. If it's obvious, like after a storm, for instance, and there's extensive damage, but I would say call right away. Now, when we can come out, that's a different story. Normally, when the flood waters subside, we are considered, emergency services during storms, so we can be out on the road a little bit early than everyone else. But we look out for the safety of our employees as well. So I would say when it's safe to travel on the roads, that's when we would come out again, which could be maybe a 24-hour to 36-hour period after a storm.
and I know we'll be getting back to you probably with some questions that are coming up. But just to go ahead and to shake it up a little bit. So now we have mold, let's say, and we have some damage from a storm coming up. So Katherine, if you can unmute yourself. Katherine is our public adjuster. And, over the years, I've been doing condominium accounting for the last 20 years or so. So, clients are constantly having damages, whether it's a named storm or just a heavy rain, or any other type of damage to the building. Over the years, I've always shied away. I'll be very candid with everyone. I've shied away about giving public adjusters names out because I have a lot of shysters out there. And I've experienced it personally. I'm sure a lot of the participants here have experienced it. And we were always hesitant about actually bringing on somebody who's a public adjuster into CARG because of, unfortunately, the bad press that a lot of public adjusters get. So it was very refreshing when Katherine, was interested in joining the group, and we vetted her. We had multiple meetings and talking with her with various members of the group, and we feel very, very comfortable. We really feel very privileged that we have Katherine, who's really, I would say, a true professional when it comes to public adjusting. So Katherine, I'm going to really turn it over to you. There was a question with public adjusting saying, when do we contact you? Do we make the claim first?
Yeah.
Because, obviously we know that your fees are based on what you collect. So, some people feel, let's put the claim in first, and then after we get a number, then we'll call the public adjuster. Then there's others that go ahead and say, you know what, we really need to set this up properly right from the get-go. Let's call you up.
Right. And that's a question that comes up a lot. Yeah. So first of all, thank you for the kind words. I really take pride in what I do and making sure that we keep a good reputation. I'm always on the go. We are A+ on the Better Business Bureau. We actually have clients that go to the Better Business Bureau and reach out to us just because we're A+ on the Better Business Bureau, have 5-star ratings. We have really great reviews. And I've worked in the field for a couple years now. I've seen, seen the bad guys, so to speak, and I've seen the good guys. I've vetted so many people that I work with personally because you have to keep your name in the game. So, and it's a good question as to who to call first. And I'll put it this way, damages happen not just in hurricane season. Hurricane season is a big one, especially down here in South Florida, anywhere in Florida, pretty much. I'm working files from up north when the hurricane hit up in Pensacola, and people still have damages up there. And Louisiana, so I work different states, I know the different laws. And so right here, when it comes to an association, pipe bursts happen all the time. Water damage, all the time. I'm pretty sure Adam is out at these properties for leaks that happen spontaneously all the time. So you can contact a public adjuster even when you have a leak. And here's the difference between contacting let's just say a public adjuster that's someone else and contacting me. Let's say you call me as soon as you see damage. The difference is that I review the policy, I take a look at the damages. I will let you know if you even have a claim or not. The minute you contact your insurance company, that gets reported and can almost go against you sometimes. It gets noted down that you have damages. Next time, let's say it wasn't a good time for you to file a claim. Next time you do have some damage, oh, that's pre-existing. Now you kind of stuck yourself there in a little mud. It's not a good thing that you should have contacted. Sometimes you should just do a repair. You don't have, or your loss is under deductible. No need to even contact the insurance company. And that's where I come in. I pretty much consult, guide, and I really want the best for the clients, because at the end of the day, if they trust you, they'll keep calling you back. And that's what I look to build, is a building relationship to where you can call me and just anytime send me a photo, a video, ask me to come to the property and say, hey, what do you think? What should I do here? And that's a difference. Now, when it comes to filing the claim, if you have a legitimate claim, get a public adjuster involved from the beginning. Why? Because the public adjuster sets up the claim. It's almost like a chess game. They set up the claim perfectly so that the process is smooth. If you do it on your own, which, we're all experts in our field. Just like Mark, you're an expert when it comes to accounting. I wouldn't know the first step. I couldn't do my own accounting. And all of us here on the panel are experts in our field. We set it up perfectly. If you start the claim on your own, you may not know exactly the words to say, what to include, what damages to look for. We have a trained eye, an adjuster's eye. We can take a look and in a second know where the problem is, what is everything that needs to be included in your estimate, what needs to be negotiated. And that's something that you may not know, may not tell the insurance company when they come out to do the inspection. And then afterward, when you get the adjuster involved, there's a lot of cleanup that needs to be done. And so, to answer the question, getting involved from the beginning is the best step, best case.
Kat, I have a question for you, if that's okay.
Sure.
When it comes to, I always tell my clients before a storm comes, gather your insurance documents, take photos, video of all your stuff, the normal. But also grab a copy of your insurance declaration, make sure you know where that stuff is. And I'm always confused on the deductible amount for a named storm. What is it typically?
So, if it's different when it comes to residential and commercial. So it's usually 2%. And when it comes to a named storm and any other perils, they have a certain amount, and it depends on what your insurance agent has sold you and what's allotted for it. So it depends.
Okay, so the 2% thing is mostly for
is usually, is the correct answer. There is 5% too. It really depends on what you chose. But maybe 2%.
We got another question in here about FEMA. Does FEMA apply to buildings?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Katherine, I will tell you, and to share with everybody here on the audience, as you know, I referred you to a client of mine. You came in, you took a look at it, and you said, you know what, do not put in a claim, because it was a small amount, and it was only going to ding your insurance, and your rates would probably go up. So, you were very candid. You could have made a small little job into something, but, you were really upfront with them. And I know my client called me and said, we really appreciate the candor and the honesty, and the advice that you gave them. So I just wanted to thank you.
Oh, no, absolutely. I'm really not looking to sign up claims. If you think about it, if it's going to be a headache for you as well, the headache that comes for the client is even worse, dealing with all of that. And I'm not looking to sign up anybody that shouldn't be. And I really just want to guide and help and consult the best way possible. I'm sure that client, will call us back when they have any other trouble, and not hesitate when we do tell them, hey, you actually do have a claim here.
Hey, so it's great info. And if anybody from the audience has a question, I just want to remind you, you can use the raise hand icon at the bottom. We'll see you raising your hand. I'll enable your mic, or you can go into the Q&A and type in a question as well, and we will answer them live. Mark, just wanted to remind everybody, back to you, sir.
All right, no, you beat me to it, Jeff. You stole my thunder.
Well, I am a Thor fan, so you know.
Charles is with GRC Landscaping, tree trimming, landscaping, pest control. You know, and really this presentation is, what do we do before the hurricane? Now, I know in my community, I live in Hollywood, we have a lot of trees. So every year we're usually doing like major and minor cuts. I'm hoping that that's the right thing to do. But maybe Charles, if you can start talking about really what we do before the hurricane.
Okay.
Get prepared.
Thank you, Mark. Well, the one thing that's most important to do is tree trimming. And tree trimming should be done by a certified arborist or overseen by a certified arborist. And usually the hardwoods are trimmed once a year, and palm trees are usually trimmed twice a year. As far as palm trees, coconut palms are a missile. They're just hanging up there waiting to be blown out off the tree and into somebody's window or damage some roof tiles. So trimming of all the coconut palms and seed pods from palm trees is very important to do. The hardwoods, on the other hand, is something that really should be done by a certified arborist, whereas you go up through the center of the tree, removing all of your cross limbs, dead branches, and things of that nature, so that the wind can actually flow from the bottom of the tree trunk up through the trunk of the tree, through the canopy of the tree, and then out. If it's a very, very mature tree, you may want to consider doing a canopy reduction because the trees get very top heavy. Now, legally, we can take up to 25% off of the canopy of tree at a maximum. But if you do a pre-hurricane tree trimming on an annual basis, you should only have to do a canopy reduction probably after the tree is at least 15 years old, because it needs time to grow and expand. But canopy reduction is also very important as the tree gets mature. We've just finished, as you all know, cleaning up tons and tons of leaves. Now, where all these leaves go? Well, normally we try to rake them up and haul them away, but a lot of the leaves wind up in your storm drain. Now, what happens there is that your storm drain gets clogged and gets full, and you need to call in a professional to come in and with big wet vacs and actually remove all the debris that is accumulated since the last time you've done it. Now, you know, and if you don't do it and you just walk around your neighborhood and look at your storm drains, if you see they're full and that we get heavy, heavy rains and a lot of water, well, that water is going to go into the storm drains, and eventually, if it's full, where's the water going to go? Well, it's going to back up onto the street and into your yards and into your community and the common areas. So it's most important to clean out the leaves that have fallen over the past 8 months and get the storm drains cleared and ready to go for hurricane season. But those are the two most important things. Trim your trees and make sure that your storm drains are clear. Other things that you should do around your community before the storm comes, you have a plan. Have a plan in place and have a relationship with your vendors so that in the event that there is a major storm and you need to get contact with your vendors to help you, you'll have that information readily available. The other things to do while walking around, check your gutters. Now, a lot of times, you know, you can't get on the roof of your building, but it should be inspected to make sure your gutters are securely fastened to your roof and are free of debris so that water can drain freely from the gutters onto into the parking lot. Check all your shrubs in your landscaping. If they're too close to the building, you got to trim it away. Same with the trees. When we trim trees and they're too close to the building, you want to be at least a minimum of 10 feet away from the building. Containered plants. A lot of pools have containerized plants, and they're great. But during a storm, they can also be very dangerous to the community. You have to move them to a secure position and if possible, lay them flat so that they don't become missiles as well. Your irrigation, the last thing you need to do is have more water come on from your irrigation system. With all the rain that we get during hurricane season, the last thing we want is for our irrigation system to come on automatically and irrigate the property. Water loosens up root balls, so that's one of the other things that you want to be considered of. Turn the irrigation off. Those are probably the most common things that we can do, but I'll be happy to take any questions that somebody may have regarding tree trimming.
We do have a question, Charles. Is it less expensive for the community to do annual tree trimming, even if it's minor, or periodically every few years just do one major cut?
Well, to answer that question, Mark, everything is based on time. The longer it takes on a particular job, the more it's going to cost. If you do annual maintenance, if you trim your palm trees twice a year, number one, you're going to be rid of the coconuts, so the flying missiles are going to be gone, and aesthetically, the property is just going to look better. If, on the other hand, you want to wait until every other year or every third year, the longer it takes us, it's going to cost you more. So be proactive instead of reactive. Call in the professionals and let them help you get your property ready for hurricane season. So to answer your question, it's better to do it a pre-hurricane season trimming annually.
Well, we have one other quick question, Charles, for you. Again, talking about tree trimming, is that they have very large trunks, and it looks like they say it's bending over. At what point in time do you start cutting these massive branches, and when do we leave them?
Okay.
How do you determine when to cut something?
Okay, the main trunk of the tree is the foundation, obviously, of the tree. Limbs that have gotten to be too big should be shortened. You don't want to cut them off altogether, but you do want to shorten them so that your center of gravity for the tree is focused on the trunk of the tree instead of the limbs. A lot of times, if the limbs are getting too long or too wide, by shortening them, it gives more strength to the foundation of the tree at the trunk area and the root ball system. So, it's really something that the arborist will decide when he inspects the property, inspects the trees, and then he'll make his recommendation to the board during his visit with you and prior to giving you a proposal.
All right, well, thank you, Charles. Leah, we have a question for you, and then you can take it from there as far as any other preparation. The question basically is, we know that a storm is coming. Do we just dump in more chemicals?
Basically, yes. There's a whole series of steps I'm going to go over, and I can explain that. That's cool.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm Leah Hartwig. I'm the president of Avaclear Pool Professionals. We specialize in weekly maintenance for commercial and residential pools. We also do repairs, installations, and renovations. So I'm here today to inform you of hurricane preparation. Any questions you have, just let me know. I'm sure all of you have dealt with messy pools before, since Florida is known for our constant rain and our hurricanes. They're no fun to clean up. So I'm about to go over the necessary steps to keep your pool clean and safe. Okay. So number one is algae is the primary reason for green water in your pool. If the water circulation or chemicals are off, algae can bloom and cause a pool to be cloudy and green. Therefore, you need to get rid of as much excessive leaves and debris as possible. So I highly suggest to trim nearby trees and bushes. Also, dead limbs become airborne and they can cause damage to pool equipment or screen enclosures. So get rid of those and remember to leave the pool cover off. If any big debris blow into the pool, it could tear off the cover and damage it. Number two would be prevent electrical problems by turning off power. If there is a chance the pool motor or other electrical equipment could be submerged, shut down power at the breaker panel. Sandbag the area around the equipment if possible, wrap the exposed equipment in a waterproof covering and tie it securely. Also, remember gas heater safety. If you have a gas heater, turn off the gas supply at the valve. Number 3, store patio furniture and loose items in a safe place. I know a lot of people do this, but do not throw items in the pool. Chemicals such as rust from the chairs and tables can cause damage, and removal can be difficult, which would resort to acid wash or a new diamond braid. Patio furniture, toys, patio umbrellas, grills, poles, even certain pool equipment like automatic pool cleaners, the vacuums. They can be dangerous getting thrown around during the hurricanes or thunderstorms. So remove all unsecured items and store them indoor until it passes.
I'm glad you said thunderstorms, because some of those thunderstorms that we have down here with
Pretty
these
serious.
50, yeah. Anyways, I'm glad you said that. Go back to you.
Thanks. Number 4 is monitor your water level. It is not recommended to drain the pool, but if you expect heavy rain and decide to lower the water level to help prevent overflowing, don't drain past the skimmer. This is because the pool circulates through there, and if the pump is running dry at any point, it could burn out. Never drain the pool completely. Due to pressure from excessive groundwater, it will cause the pool to lift or crack. 5, add extra chemicals. Definitely add extra chlorine, at least a gallon or 2. Let the pool circulate for as much as possible. I'd say at least 24 hours before the storm. Then you turn off the power at the circuit breaker, and a floating chlorinator can provide sanitation if you want to run your pump. But it wouldn't hurt to add an extra dose of algicide to prevent a possible algae outbreak. And 2 more. 6 is contracts. Make sure you are prepared with all contracts, and if bidding out, do it early enough to have time for the board to make decisions on vendors. These contracts ensure that any issues with the pool or its equipment are quickly resolved, reducing the risk of complications. So having regular monitoring in place also allows for maintenance to be scheduled for appropriate timelines, ensuring functioning of the entire system. And last but not least, schedule an initial inspection with your pool vendor. Try to get your inspection done as early as possible to ensure the facility will pass a city inspection. Cities get really busy the closer we get to pool season. So if you want to make sure you're not delayed waiting for your inspection, it's important to know what inspectors are looking for, so you can have anything necessary, like the repairs or something that need to be done. So some of the things that you need to do are test emergency phone lines, test all gates with key fobs, key cards, etc. Update pool rules and post in the pool area. Update pool open/close times and outside of the pool. Schedule de-winterization of the facility, so bathrooms, showers, water fountains, stuff like that. Have a pool furniture inspected, power washed if necessary, and set up for use. Announce pool opening date to your community, and ensure pool safety equipment is in place and operational. Okay, so that includes all my steps. I haven't heard. Yeah.
Living in Florida, what's pool season in Florida considered? And I'm not trying to make a joke. Is pool season in Florida, is what you said important all year round, or is there really a pool season in South Florida?
Pool season is just basically when it's not cold anymore, so when everyone's in the pool all the time. So when it gets to like spring, and then all the way to, probably September-ish.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Leah, we have a question from Joseph. He has a community association pool. His maintenance man is going ahead and handling at this point in time. And he asked the question that, does the person have to, especially in an association, do they have to be a licensed pool person?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Versus just, somebody in the maintenance department throwing in chemicals, sweeping it up?
Mm-hmm. You're usually supposed to have a CPO license, and that CPO license allows whatever technician to clean commercial pools. The inspectors don't really ask for them, but it is required to obviously have somebody certified, and usually they ask for the certification to be hung up around like the pool, like where they store like all the pool equipment. So, I mean, honestly, most pool companies don't do that, but yes, it is required.
I have a question.
Yes.
Let's say there's a category 3 coming in. You know, we're talking like 10-foot storm surges. Let's say someone's on, you know, the coast and the storm surge goes up, and now all of a sudden you have ocean water in a pool, or so much flood water that you can't tell where the pool ends and begins. What do you do about that if it's just, yeah?
Well, you definitely got to drain. Well, it also depends. If it's a saltwater pool, it's not too bad. So every community pool that I have around the beach, I always recommend them to, you know, get it salt. But if not, then we just drain it. Unfortunately, we're going to have to drain it, or we can put in a whole bunch of chemicals in there and try to see what we can do first, you know, because yeah, it's a lot of water to refill.
Can I ask a question to Leah? Leah,
Yeah.
Leah, can a Cat 3 hurricane or Cat 4 severe storm cause a pool to pop, the shell of the pool to pop out? Is that possible? And what can we do to prevent it?
Only if the pool is empty, not if it's full, I'd say. Obviously, if like the water gets tossed around, if it's completely full, it's probably not going to pop up like that. But like I said, to prevent it, just try not to drain the pool.
So those associations that have community pools should not do any pool renovations during hurricane season, because if the pool is empty and we get a major storm, they're going to have a major problem. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. And I always highly suggest people to do it at winter time, especially when people aren't using the pool. That's definitely the best time to do it.
Thank you, Leah.
It's interesting, Charles. You know, I'm actually having my own personal pool in my house, diamond braided right now. And I asked that question because many years ago in North Miami, a pool was under construction, and they basically finished it, but they didn't have water. The storm came, the water level rose, and it actually popped the pool. But I think, Leah, there's isn't on the main drain on the bottom. Usually you can disconnect that and open that up, so that if any water from the water table comes up, it would go literally through that drain.
Yeah, and there's a follow-up question to that as well in the Q&A. Stephanie is asking, popping up is in-ground pools. Is there anything that they need to know about suspended pools?
Suspended pools as in?
I don't know. Stephanie, if you want to elaborate on what you mean by suspended pools, like over a garage, for instance.
Over a garage. And what is the question exactly? Like, what do you do to prevent?
Yeah, you were talking about how popping up is, you know, can occur if this particular situation is in place, like you said, if it's not full. So is there anything to look out for with regards to suspended pools, such as one that's not necessarily in the ground, but like on a deck above a garage, for instance? What's to look out for there?
I think what they're saying is, you know, if you have something that's on ground, you have the water table that would rise. If it's above ground, like for argument's sake, on top of the building or on top of the garage, you're not going to have that pressure. You're not going to have a water table issue.
Right. Right. I mean, I wouldn't ever really worry about that. I've never dealt with it before, but I can't imagine it ever really being an issue unless it's empty, like I said before.
Okay, so it's not the same as being in the ground. Okay.
Yeah.
There is one other question from Vicky. She was asking about the ideal pool temperature. Now, if you're asking me as a non-professional, okay, I like mine, you know, as hot as possible, because I hate going into a cold pool. But I guess it is a very legitimate question, is what's
if you have heating, if you have a heated pool.
Right. What's the ideal pool temperature? And I guess also, Leah, I'd imagine that as the temperature in the pool rises, you may have to change chemicals, or you may have to add more chemicals possibly.
Yeah, definitely in hotter weather, algae grows consistently quick. So definitely always add more if you think it's going to be a really hot and dry day, or even with rain too. You know, rain dilutes the chemicals. Whenever the chemicals are diluted, there's not enough treatment to keep it sustainable or clean. So, but yeah, I'd say the degrees wise is anywhere from 78 to 85. That's probably the best temperature, you know, not too hot, definitely not too cold. You don't want it to be uncomfortable for your visitors coming. So
I'm not going into your pool. I like it a lot warmer than that.
yeah, me too. Pool heaters are great.
Okay. Catherine, and I think you're gonna have to unmute yourself, you're still muted, but there's a question. If I don't have a claim, if I don't have damage and we're anticipating a storm, should we be contacting you, you know, as far as any things that we should be doing or looking for? And the question really from Susan was, if we don't see something, but we know that it's been a heavy rain, should we be contacting you to come out?
So, you know, like let's say when it comes to roofs are meant to withstand certain wind speed and rain. So usually my answer to that would be, you can contact, let's say myself or public adjuster, to inspect the property before hurricane comes in or before hurricane season, just so you have records of what your property looks like. I myself, you know, we bring our team, we can fly a drone over, get good images of the outside exterior, see if there's any pre-existing cracks there, maybe damages that you didn't see before. Make sure just that that's noted and that, you know, you have that on file, photos of the property. Reviewing the policy is very important. Just because you don't have damages now doesn't mean that maybe, you know, later and when a hurricane comes by and then, you know, you have something done. If you have all of that information from before, you know, it's really easy. So when we have to file a claim, to prove that, you know, that this is new, this is old, and you go from there. So you don't technically have to call a public adjuster every time it rains, but having one in contact and that can come and see your property before, you know, a storm, and just maybe once a year, twice a year, just take a look at it and make sure that things are documented correctly. Yeah.
What, if I can jump in there, what you should be doing is calling me as well, you know, ServPro, water damage. I wanted to talk about preparedness because, you know, mold and water damage and all that stuff, that's after the fact. But the drone on the roof thing, that is awesome. There's certain things that you can do if you're in charge of a building or a property before a storm. There's so many times that foundation cracks, window sills have failed. If you're experienced, if you don't have hurricane impact windows and it's still the older windows and you don't, you know, go around and reseal every couple of years, especially before a storm, all the little rain droplets that have been coming in over the past years, if you have a hurricane or wind-driven rain, you know, vents, bathroom exhausts as well, if they're not properly sealed, because you're talking about rain that's not just coming down, it's coming sideways and up as well, with all the wind patterns, the way the water migrates through the air, water will find a way in. So going over maintenance and, you know, everything that Kat said, Charles said, is also very important. You know, storm drains, once those things get clogged, they're going to come back up through, typically it's always a resident or two on the first floor of a building. They're going to have the sewer line back up, and now there's a difference between category 3 flood water and category 3 black water. You're talking about water that's a sewage line coming up into a house. 90% of all of the 90% of all the related deaths after a storm is because the people are walking around in water, not knowing there's power lines, or they're walking around and in literally poop water without shoes on. I've seen it before. All you need is a cut and then you have an infection. So you really got to be careful. Don't clean literally the crap up yourself.
Crappy topic.
Yeah. Don't clean it up yourself. Don't, I heard a wet back. Yes, wet back. Don't use a dry back. Electrocutions happen a lot. You know, and you don't really know, like if you have one stain, like where is it coming from? You know, how did it get there? There's always processes. So that's the most important thing I would say is, you know, make sure you know, your flood, your drainage, all of that stuff is ready to go, and preparation before storm is so important.
You know, Adam, it's interesting that you said about have a professional go ahead and do cleanup. Years and years ago, I remember we had a major storm. I went out in our community and I was cleaning up, raking out some of the leaves, you know, by the storm drains and all. And I must have gotten a cut, and I actually developed cellulitis. You know, probably dirt or debris got into that cut, and you know, it really caused havoc for probably a good 2 weeks, you know, on my leg.
I mean, you know, if you could really understand what's, you know, what it and if you just think, like if you have a water damage, and just think about where it might be coming from, and if it's a main drain line, even from a garbage disposal, you know, that's nasty. The bacteria, you know, from obviously a sewer line or a waste line is completely harmful, and it's supposed to go away from the house, not come back up. So identifying the certain classifications and what kind of water it is also super important when it comes to a claim process, what stays and what goes, so on and so forth.
Right. Matter of fact, what we didn't mention, which I'm going to mention now, okay, is that the group, a CARG actually went ahead and said, you know what, we're doing this radio format, and the CARG members are going to go ahead and choose the best question that somebody gets on, and we're giving away a $100 Visa gift card. And we should have mentioned it a little before, but we still have plenty of time for everybody to ask their question and have the CARG members vote on the best question, and you will get a $100 Visa gift card. So if anyone has any great questions, please go ahead and either raise your hand and we'll turn on your mic, or you obviously you can type it in and we'll go ahead and do that if you're shy.
Is it, you know, while we're waiting for hopefully folks will have some questions, is hurricane debris cleanup after the storm, is that covered, or is that something that is still not covered by a policy? Like if you're, let's say you're in Florida, we have a lot of gated communities, a lot of security gated communities.
Right.
I used to run one back when I was running one over at Coconut Creek. I had to do my best to form relationships. Somebody mentioned that earlier. I have to form very close, friendly relationships with our local government, because back then things weren't covered. And because of the relationship, the person that I knew, several of the people I knew on the council for the city, were able to get FEMA in there and clean up the debris for us, again, because of close personal relationships, because it's not covered. It's an expense out of pocket. Is it still that way post-hurricane in South Florida?
Yeah, actually, with the insurance, unless there's damage to an insured part of your property, general landscape cleanup, if let's say a tree falls on a road but doesn't damage anything, that's not covered by insurance. So, which leads me to,
and if you're a large property, that adds up. I mean,
absolutely,
because we had our property was 460 acres. I mean, the damage was, I'm thinking back to Wilma, and that expense would have been huge.
Yeah, well, you know, during the Wilma claim in my community, we have 150 homes in the community. We had $150,000 of just cleanup.
Just cleanup. Wow.
Of landscaping. So back then I didn't know Charles because I would have given him the contract.
After
but
vetting everybody, yes.
Right, but so now I'm going to just jump in just a little bit, from a financial standpoint.
Yeah.
It's always good to go ahead and to have a contingency line of credit. Unless, the community has vast funds to go ahead and to take care of either cleanup that the insurance is not doing. And even if the insurance was covering some items, you're not getting that immediately.
Right.
You could wait a month before an insurance claim kicks in.
Right.
And you can't go ahead and have damaged buildings. You can't have damaged public areas, the landscaping, if it's, scattered around the roads and you can't drive through it. So it's very important, as in any business, to go ahead and to have either a lot of funds set aside specifically, for this emergency, or what I always recommend to my clients is to have a contingency line of credit. You can have a credit line going on for about 3 years without any fee. Once you establish it, you're not paying anything unless you draw upon that
Draw
line
from
of
it.
credit.
Yeah.
In addition to that, there was a question basically by Mabel that said, what the deductible should be on their insurance. So listen, it's always great to have the lowest deductible, but it's very costly. So normally you would have either a 2, 3, or 4, or 5% deductible. Obviously, 2% deductible is very expensive compared to a 5% deductible. But the difference is between 2 and 5%, depending on the value of your building. Your community may be coming out with hundreds of thousands or sometimes a couple of $1 million, for that deductible. And that's where also a line of credit comes in. It's very valuable because you can actually save money on your insurance premiums by raising your deductible, but going ahead and having a line of credit, which is relatively inexpensive when you're talking about these type of items. So that, let's say if you go from a 2 to a 5% or a 4% deductible, in the event of a bad catastrophe, you can call the bank the very next day and you can draw funds to cover the difference between a 2 or a 4% deductible. And each year that you do this, think about it, you're saving a lot of money. So it's something to really think about. And I think it's prudent for any condominium association because you are a business.
Yeah.
And you need to have that source of funds readily available.
And we have a question in the Q&A, but Mark, I want to piggyback on what you just mentioned because I remember you wrote an article one time. Why should you contact your accounting firm or finance person before a storm approaches? And and that's part of what you were mentioning. Most people don't think about contacting their accountant or their accounting firm or their monthly accounting firm before a storm comes. And it's good to know just to make sure you're on the same page, know what you have available and get recommendations such as that, correct?
But that is, and also it's very important to go ahead and either have some blank checks, and that's what we usually send out to our clients if we know a storm is coming. Because we may, even though we're backed up, every which way, so all your information is always available.
And there's also a question. I think
Wait.
your $100 gift card thing. There's a question in the Q&A you may want to check out.
Hold
Yeah,
on, before you get to that, what Mark and Jeff was saying,
Yep.
And just from my industry, okay, if there's a catastrophe and a huge damage, everyone has insurance, right? So like my company will wait for the insurance proceeds, obviously, but if you really want to, satisfy all your occupants and get things moving, it's important to have cash on hand for drywall repairs, things of that nature. The insurance company, they'll reimburse the emergency service dryouts and stuff like that. But, most contractors, I don't know any contractors who are going to start quickly with a matter of weeks, unless there's some deposit money put up front. So That is
Absolutely.
super important, and I can just take it back to my first hurricane trip in it was in Louisiana / Alabama area. Everyone had insurance, right? But with so many streets all being damaged at the same time, people were like literally waving money at contractors to get to them first. Now, you know, that's an important thing. You know, money talks during a storm, and if there's two buildings right next to one another and one is saying, hey, I can give you a deposit, we're going to take obviously the you know the one who's going to pay us a little bit up front first. So just something to think about.
Yeah, no,
Money and
absolutely. And
relationships.
that's really what I was saying, Adam, is that we try to go ahead and give all of our clients some blank checks.
Absolutely.
Because we may not be able even to get into the building, okay?
Absolutely.
Or even if we work remotely, you know, because of the severity of a storm, you know, it's nice to have a check that you can just hand to a contractor, or possibly even set up a debit card or a credit card for the association to pay for an emergency that you just, again, contractors, you know, are going to be called every second, and they're going to go after, you know, those clients that can pay them. I mean, I know you're a little different, Adam. You have a heart, you know, and that, you know, like, you know, you will wait, you know, for certain things, but again, you know, it's money talks.
Absolutely.
Very important.
Can I jump in here for a second, please?
Sure.
The most important thing that you as board members, concerned homeowners can do right now is to have your plan in place. Have your relationships established with your landscape company, with your bank, with all of your vendors. Make sure and request that they send you your certificate of insurance, naming the association as co-insured. The most important thing is you have to determine what jobs during the cleanup you can do internally and what jobs you need to hire a professional for. The most dangerous power tool available to the public today is chainsaws. Chainsaws can go up to 68 miles per hour, and the mufflers can be up to 900 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you have a maintenance man and you've got a couple limbs down and he feels comfortable and cutting that limb up, fine. But make sure that your chainsaws have safety features, shut off handles, brakes, and so on. There are going to be many, many, many people riding around in pickup trucks with chainsaws and ladders. These people are not insured. If you hire them and they come onto your property and they have an accident while pruning your tree with their chainsaw, guess what? You're responsible. You're responsible for the liability, their medical, everything. So hire your professional. And the best time to find an expert, as our tagline says.
When is that, Charles?
The best time to find an expert is before you need it. So thank you all for joining us today. And I'm not signing off. I'm just saying you're concerned about your property and you want to know what's best for your association and to what best thing to do to protect your property. That's it. Make sure you have your relationships established before the storm comes.
Very well said.
That's another great point. And the last thing I'll say is some of my clients have pre-authorization signed like before a storm, you know, with a promise not to exceed a certain amount. If I can't get a hold of you, you can't get a hold of me. At least we have something in place, you know, because time is everything when it comes to you know, a storm. We do have that 72-hour window that we're really trying to beat. If there's floodwaters, we're already down 24 hours at least. So, you know, timing is everything.
We do have a question from Matthew. It says, what is the best course of action if a large tree falls on an HOA homeowner? Now, I don't know if they
Call
mean
your
by-
attorney.
Right, run for the hills. I don't know whether Matthew means physically a tree falling on an individual or an individual's home. But obviously, you want to make sure that you have your proper insurance before these incidents happen. You want to be covered for liability. You want to have proper D&O, that's directors and officers, insurance. Probably give the advice, just like Jeff said, call the attorney quickly, to mitigate some liability there. Catherine, there was another question with public adjuster that was asking, what involvement do you have with their own attorney? Because a lot of times attorneys, get involved and say, well, we can handle a claim. But obviously, everybody specializes, in what they do. An attorney is not a construction person. They're not a public adjuster. So what's the involvement basically between a public adjuster, the association's attorney, or do you have your own legal group that you use?
Yeah, so public adjusters partner with attorneys when needed. It's always good to have an attorney by your side that you can call and ask questions to, or that needs to maybe take over if something is not going the right way legally. So I'll give you an example. For us, I always say get a public adjuster involved before you get an attorney involved, just because a public adjuster's objective, what their main objective is to get you paid as quickly as possible, the most as possible. And the attorneys use the public adjuster's file to settle and negotiate that claim. The only difference is that they're able to file a lawsuit and take it to court and just take it the whole 9 yards. However, that does take a long time. If you go straight to an attorney, it's going to take a long time. I've been in cases where we've been able to do, this is not all the time, but let's say a $15 million settlement, 8 months, no attorney. So that, I've seen it happen. We've done smaller amounts than that. That was just a huge win, but you don't always need an attorney. Attorneys take a percentage as well. It's pretty high. And attorneys also are great. They get paid on time. So they do front a big bill to the insurance companies afterward. And the longer they work on your file, the more they get paid. However, I am an advocate for attorneys when needed, and it's good to have them on your side.
And there's one more question as a follow-up. I think you may have touched upon it. From start to finish, and I guess, it really depends on the size of the claim and all, but realistically, they were asking how long from start to finish can we see money come to us?
Every claim is different. I've seen where, let's say it really depends. Is it a hurricane loss? Is it not a hurricane loss? Let's say like I was working up in Louisiana, which I still am. Those places, homes are destroyed, buildings are destroyed. They'll issue out an undisputed payment quick. And that's undisputed. They owe that. So that might come in let's say a month. Now you have some funds to start working on the property. Whenever we can get an undisputed payment, great. As fast as possible, let's put some money in the client's pocket. However, after that, will they always do that? No. Depends where you are, depends your insurance company, depends who your adjuster is on the other end and who's representing you too. So, would we like that? Yeah. However, it really depends. You can be 3 months. They do have 90 days to determine coverage though. And after that, you can make your decision on what you would like to do, whether you would like to file a lawsuit or not. But it could take 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, depending on the size of the claim as well. So if you have a community association, are they gonna want to release 800,000 right away? No, they're gonna ask you for all the documentation possible, for all your meeting minutes possible. This is actually a good. I was doing a claim review for a property, and it was a big roof loss, and the insurance company is able to ask you for your meeting minutes that the board has had. And in the meeting minutes for years now, they have talked about damage on the roof. So this was before Hurricane Irma that they said that there was damage. They were talking about it in the meetings. We got to get this fixed. Come Irma, they're like, oh, we need to file a claim. We have even more damage. Now, how do those meeting minutes that are requested look like when we have to file the claim? You really need good representation to show this is recent Irma damage. They may have had some issues before. However, so the insurance company, they will ask you for documentation, send out engineer. So this is a process and it takes time. And that's just a really good example as to how having someone that knows the industry, knows what the insurance company is going to come back with and what you should be ready for on your side, even when you don't have damage at the time. Because look at that, they asked for the meeting minutes and the meeting minutes did say that, they already had damage on the roof. Did I still get them paid? Yes. So there you go, but hey, so many different scenarios, Mark. Everything is so different.
Thank you. Adam, there's a question from Annabelle that's asking, what other services do you do other than mold remediation?
Good question. Water damage mitigation and mold restoration are two main services. Fire, smoke, cleanups, odor elimination, air duct cleaning, carpet cleaning, any sort of thing like your maintenance people need help with, is what we can do. Reconstruction as well. Lost my train of thought there.
Well, let me ask you this, because Beth has another question over here.
Sure.
As far as because of COVID, okay, do you do any type of services for prevention or for an outbreak or something like that?
Yeah, actually we do. The ServPro oxide, the disinfectant, the antimicrobial that we use, it's organic, plant-based, it has no odor. We use that when we clean up water damages, mold projects. We can also heat this chemical up to 212 degrees and it becomes a vapor. So we have been doing COVID cleanings since, this whole thing started. So yeah, those are services that we seldom do now, but obviously we were in it a year ago, big time.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
So we only have about 3 minutes left in the advertised time. So we may have time for one more audience question. So if anybody has a question out there, you could raise your hand or write it in real quick because we have about 3 minutes to go.
All right, and then there's one other, Charles, as far as, obviously we know that you do full landscaping and tree trimming. You had mentioned about storm drain cleaning. Does your firm do that?
No, we do not. We do not provide storm drain cleaning services, but if you just Google it, and there are many companies out there that actually provide that service, and it would be very beneficial to you to look into that before you need it. So again, check.
If you contact us or myself, I do know a storm drain cleaner that I could set you up with. Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
And it looks like we have a question for Leah in the Q&A, Mark.
All righty, let me just grab that. What is the best way to handle a large waterfall feature at the front entrance of a community? Are there any hazards to that?
Not really. I just probably would turn the water off, as long as it's not, hallow or anything like that.
Right, okay. And I see that also Darren is in, and Darren is our pest control person. So if you have iguanas, if you have pests, even though we're not talking about that for hurricane, preparation. I see.
Well,
that
nor are
Darren-
we talking about troublemaker board members at a meeting. We're not talking about those kinds of pests either.
Right. Well, we have somebody else. We have Guido that can take care of any of those.
Yeah, but Vito's not in CARG. He's not a
No,
member of
I
CARG.
agree, but I do call upon him once in a while to go ahead and take care of unruly board members or unit owners. But Darren just signed on, so if anybody happens to have any pest control type of questions, you just joined on, so we can open it up a little bit. And Darren's a wealth of knowledge, and he's just an all-around, just nice guy to deal with. So I'm just throwing that out to everybody.
And,
If I could say a couple things, I just
Yes.
as far as pest control, it's kind of a stretch to associate that with hurricanes. Usually, people are panicking in hurricanes, and roaches and ants become kind of lower on the priority list when that happens. But the only thing pest control related I could see is maybe to inspect trees for carpenter ant damage, which Charles and I work together. I'm also a licensed tree trimmer, so GRC and I work together as far as that to that capacity. But as far as pest control goes, if with water, there's flooding, there's mosquitoes, things like that. But again, that becomes less of a priority in a storm, and there's not much preparation as far as pest control goes, except to inspect trees and for maybe check trusses in the attic for carpenter ant and chewing insect damage, things like that would help.
Matter of fact, Darren, there's a question from Brody talking about iguanas. They have a terrible problem. Is that something
Yes.
that you handle?
We do. There's a few different methods. Some people are more concerned about the well-being of the iguana. If that's the case, there's products that we use, granular products that repel them, natural products. We also, on the other end, I have a Marine that works for us, and we use an air gun if need be. And either approach works. And we have been successful. We've gone back to a few large communities and over a couple of years and taken care of it. It reduces the population drastically. So we can help with that.
And then there was a follow-up, after we get rid of some of these iguanas, how likely is it that they'll be coming back?
Well, I mean, they do. They're very invasive and they multiply, and there's been no natural control. Usually a nice cold front knocks them out, but you could also band trees so they don't climb up trees. If they get on your roof, I would make sure there's no branches that touch the roof, which would act as a runway to access the roof. But the repellents do work for about 6 weeks. The granular products do work. I tried them myself in my backyard. I do have a problem also. But when you just kind of have to learn to live with them a little bit, because it reduces them by about 80%. So they still will come back, and they are a nuisance, but banding trees helps. And planting plants that, if you look up plants that iguanas don't like, they don't like begonias for flowers. And there's certain plants that I would recommend you use instead of plants they like.
Hey, Darren, we have a question in the Q&A. What is the best way to contact you, Darren? Maybe you can verbalize it now and also place it into the chat for Mr. Schaefer.
Sure. Do you want me to place my number in the chat?
Send it to everybody. And then folks, for those of you still on the call, visit CARG for Help. That's CARG, the number 4, and then help, carg4help.org. That is where you will find all of our contact information, as well as some articles written by our panel, amongst others. And you could also fill out a request form on the website. And if you choose pools or if you choose pest control, depending on what you choose on the drop down on the form online, that email will be sent to the specific expert on the in the CARG group. So that's carg4help.org.
And one last thing, if I could, I remembered my thought from a few moments ago. Now the most important thing when you hire any one of us or any company related to a storm is documentation. The company that you hire, let's say you hire ServPro for a major water damage. You need to take pictures. ServPro, we should be taking pictures, communicating with the insurance company, and you as a put on your project manager hat every day. Ask for a status update. It should only be taking 3 or 4 days to dry out a structure, no matter how big it is, not 10. So, make sure that the person you hire has experience with dealing with insurance companies, because, how are you going to prove that this whole hallway was wet if it was all cut out within 3 or 4 days of the incident happening? So documentation is key.
All right, terrific. And for everyone listening right now, Adam is a ServPro franchise. So it's important, if you like what Adam said, if you have a need, don't just look up and go under ServPro, but you should be going either through CARG or Adam, you can probably give out your phone number. Because there's ServPro and then there's ServPro. So not every ServPro, in my opinion, is equal. And that's why we have Adam, part of our group, because he's probably the best ServPro individual.
Thank you.
All righty. I think that's basically it. I don't see any more questions in our Q&A. Are there any panelists right now that just want to wrap up? And is there anything else that you wanted to talk about as far as preparation for hurricanes before we go ahead and we sign off?
Tarps, if you have roof damage, be careful. Don't hire someone who's going to put a tarp in by using nails. When you're boarding windows and you don't have shutters, don't use a nail gun into the concrete. I've seen a lot of people create more damage for them in the long run trying to protect themselves from a storm. So be careful, because those could lead to other problems.
Great. Charles, anything else before we sign off?
No, I don't really have anything else to contribute. Again, we pretty much covered all of the most important aspects of preparation, and I can't stress it enough. Have your plan in place, have your relationship in place with your vendors, and make sure you get, make sure the vendors that you hire are licensed and insured. That's the most important thing, because if somebody gets hurt on the job or on your property and it's not licensed and insured with a chainsaw, it's going to come back to haunt you.
No, absolutely.
And make sure they're a Florida contractor too.
Correct.
No out-of-state people. Yep.
And I just pasted something into the chat by accident. I meant to paste Darren's contact information. Darren, go ahead and repaste your contact info, because that was only sent to the host and panelists. Be sure, please select all, that it goes to everyone. The link I pasted is not relevant here, and I apologize for that.
I'm pretty helpless, Jeff, but I'll give it a try.
Darren can be contacted at 954-326-5600 for the person who asked. And again, if you go to CARG for help, that was fun. I needed that laugh. CARGforhelp.org. That's CARG, the number 4 HELP.org. But again, Darren can be reached for pest control 954-326-5600. And sorry that I posted that wrong link. That was not for this.
All right. Well, anyway, I want to thank everybody for participating. We had a nice turnout. Again, if there's any particular topics that the audience would like us to go ahead and to put on a seminar for, we're more than willing to go ahead and to do that. And again, thank you really for sharing your time today, and hope that everything that you heard was educational and helpful. And again, with the CARG members, if you have any questions, you can write it into the website or give us a call. There's no obligation, there's no cost, and hopefully we're just a wealth of knowledge that we can go ahead and answer some questions, or at least steer you into the right direction. So with that said, I'm going to say goodbye to everyone and have a great weekend, and a safe weekend. And Jeff, you can do the wrap up.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes, no, we truly appreciate them. We know it's Friday morning getaway day for a lot of folks. So thank you so much for spending the time with us. Look for our announcements for the June panel coming up shortly. There's a very brief, very brief survey that will pop up at the end here, about 3 or 4 questions. But in one of the fields, you can type in several characters. Let us know what you'd like to see going forward. Maybe we can cater something for your particular association. We've done that before as well. If you have a hot topic
Or management company.
or management company, so just let us know, and we're happy to try to get something together for you. Maybe we can do something for you down the road. And again, carg4help.org. That's where you can find us all, as well as our future events.